you're still going to do your very best on that exam because there's other programs where it's not optional, it's required. How can I explain my low test scores in my essays? Yeah. First, you would need to know what the required score is for acceptance. And you can get that by contacting them, by contacting the program and asking them. It might say it on the website. Sometimes they say just as high as you can get. They're kind of vague about it. But you essentially want to know what the scores have been of students that have been admitted and where you're ranking on that scale. So that's important for you to figure out first. Once you figure that out, it depends on how far you are from that. If you're just a tiny bit under it, I perhaps would not mention it, but I would focus on drafting a personal statement and a statement of purpose that demonstrates and showcases who you are as a person and your research interests. It is possible for students to get into a program with a less than ideal score, but a really strong personal statement, a really strong letters of rec and things like that, because, review committees do know that scores only represent so much of an applicant. Now, if your score is much below the expected score, you might not qualify to apply, but that is dependent on the program. So if you're considering where you fit in that, I would recommend reaching out to the program and letting them know what your current test score is and asking if they can provide. And when I say reach out to the program, reach out to the graduate advisor. Most programs will have a graduate advisor that can connect you either to the right person in the program to speak to in the department, or connect you to someone else at the institution or university to speak to. So if you feel that your score is low enough where you need to address it, I wouldn't focus on it too much. Don't give it too much attention, because what you're doing is taking away, or you're giving attention to the low test score that could go to other experiences, your research, other things that prepare you, other things that make you a great applicant. You're not your GRE score. And although there is an expected score for students to be admitted, it is possible for you to be admitted if it's a little bit lower, as long as you can demonstrate that you have that you are still prepared for the degree, that you do have other experiences that make you a well-rounded applicant and make you stand out. So I wouldn't give it too much attention. If you need one sentence to address it, go ahead and do that. The application pages of most of my desired universities say that the GRE scores are optional, but may improve my chances in certain cases if sent. Should I send them or not? I am in a dilemma. If it's optional, but you're already taking the test for another program where it is not optional, obviously you're still going to do your very best on that exam, because there's other programs where it's not optional, it's required. So you're going to get as high of a score as you possibly can for the programs where it's required. For the programs where it's not required, I would still do my research to find out what the expected score is, or what the average score is for admittance. If you are below that, significantly below that, I would not submit it. If you're slightly below it, I would submit it. And in the essay, I would address it. Maybe one sentence that says, well, I'm not going to tell you what to say, but one sentence that addresses, that score, in what area, category you scored lower than the average, just kind of letting it, addressing the elephant in the room. But if it's just slightly lower, I wouldn't even address it, because all you're doing is drawing the review committee's attention to that, where you could be drawing their attention to other things that are unique and original and, amazing about you as an applicant. And that can be things that they want to know about you, why you're applying, what research you have done, or what you plan to do after you get the degree, how you came to appreciate this type of, industry or field. There are so many other things that you can address that would strengthen your application than to draw attention to a low test score. Depends how low it is. This is a strategy. This is really a game of strategy. Like, it's optional. I scored just below the average. Should I submit it? It ultimately does depend on the feedback you get from the graduate advisor, what your final score is and how much below the average GRE admittance score is. And if you feel that you need to address it because of how relevant the material in the exam is to the program. Let's say you're applying for a PhD in math. Your math score is significantly lower. That might pose a problem. If you're not applying to math, you're applying for something in medical anthropology and your math score is a little low, it's not as relevant. You're likely not going to use any math in that PhD program. Just an example. So why would you address it when you could be addressing something else that demonstrates that you are a stellar student, that you are prepared for the PhD, that you have plans after the PhD, that you are fully aware of what the program offers and why you're a great fit for it, the faculty you want to work with. Do you see what I'm saying? There's so much more that you can address aside from focusing on the fact that your math score is not that great, but you're not going to be using math in your PhD anyways. So this is a complex question because it's a game of strategy. And it depends on that program, what the required score is, the general score of previously admitted students, what your research plan is, all of that. So if you have follow-up questions on that, please go ahead and drop them because I know I gave you a lot of information. But you do need to develop a strategy as far as, and I did that too. So my GRE score in math was not great. It was, I think it was below the average. But my writing and writing comprehension, reading, and all of that was great. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing any math, haven't touched any math since I started my PhD. I did not address my math score. I did not address it at all. I submitted the supplemental writing that was optional. I spoke about my research experiences. I spoke about all of these other things that demonstrate that I'm prepared for the PhD now and that I know what kind of research I want to do. I know why I want to do it at the institution I'm applying to, all of these other things, because at the end of the day, they're going to look at that math score. They're going to see, okay, it's below the average, but what else does this applicant have to offer?